friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be using this adorable new stamp set from MFT called Puddle Jumper. I'll also be using the Rain or Shine. These are both from Birdie Brown. And I'll also be using the Calm and Cozy Chevron 6x6 pattern paper pad. I've stamped my images with MFT's Black Licorice Hybrid ink on some Copic friendly cardstock, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers today. For his skin, I'm using E000, E00, and E11. I'm starting with that E11 and beginning to lay in some shadows, especially under his hairline, along the sides of his face, and right on the edge of his hands where the cuff is overlapping, where there would be a shadow. Then I'm blending out with the E00 and then finishing up the majority of his face with the E000. And I'll give him some rosy cheeks with the R20 so he has that youthful glow. For his hair, I'm using E50, E51, E53, and E55, and I'm going to flick in the color to kind of make him look like a dirty blonde because I want him to look like my youngest son. So the minute I saw this stamp set, I got so excited because most of you guys know that I'm a writer, and one of my favorite poems that I ever wrote was called Puddle Jumper, which is the name of the stamp set, and it was about my youngest son standing at the window watching a storm and waiting for it to pass and the sun to come back out so that he could go outside and jump in puddles. So I am totally modeling this to look like my youngest son when he was a little boy. I would say maybe about 3 years old is when I wrote the poem about him. So I'm trying to give him a similar look to what my son had at that time. So I'm not an expert on coloring hair. I don't color people that often. I usually color critters. So hair is still something I'm practicing. But basically I just start at wherever I think the part is and I flick the hair in the opposite direction away from that. And I just start with my lightest color and kind of build up to the darkest. And then I go back down through all the shades to my lightest again. I try to hold my marker as perpendicular as I can, so as straight up and down as possible. So I'm just using the very tip of my marker so I can get nice thin strokes. And I'm also just holding it lightly with very little pressure. That's the best way that I know to do it, but obviously I still need a little more practice. But I think it came out all right in the end. I did decide that the hair color needed just a little more depth, so I brought in the E57, and I'm just using that really sparingly, just a few thin strokes to kind of accent, especially around that part. For his raincoat, I'm going to use BG72, BG75, and BG78. And I'm starting with that BG78 and I'm just laying in the shadows really carefully, just going around those edges, especially where there's little lines that the artist has drawn to indicate that the fabric would be folded, like where his knee is raised up, and then also just under his arms and along the edges of the jacket. Also around his collar where it would be overlapping, there would be a shadow around his neck. And I did a little line right down the center where the two parts are kind of meeting. And then I'm going to come in with the BG75 and begin to blend that out. I really like this color for kind of a muted, boyish blue-green, I guess. It's kind of a gray blue-green, but I just think it really suits kind of boy cards and things. I'm actually drawing inspiration for my color combos today from the comforter on my boys' beds. My two youngest boys have bunk beds, and they have a comforter on there that is navy blue, and then it's got these different colors in it, and sports balls and things like that. So I'm actually drawing my whole coloring combination from that today. So now I'm just blending out with that BG72, filling in the rest of the area, making sure to catch the edge of the BG75 for a nice blend. And I thought the pocket needed a little more definition, so I just went back in with my colors and added a bit more shadow around that area. I'm also going to use those 3 shades to color in one of the sections of my umbrella. So again, I'm starting with the darkest shade, the BG78, and I'm just kind of outlining the inside 3 areas of that. I'm going to leave my highlight for the outside edge. So I'm just kind of doing a U shape, and then I'm going to blend out with the BG75 and then finish with that BG73. Next, I'm going to give him some jeans. So I'm using B34, B37, and B39. This is where I'm going to bring in that kind of navy shade. So I'm starting with that B39 and just doing my shadows on the inside of the legs and a little bit of a crease there where the fabric is bunched, and then a little line right under the edge of the jacket. And then I'll blend that out with the B37. And then I'll finish with the B34, just making sure to blend that really well since there is quite a bit of difference between those last 2 shades. While I have those colors out, I'm going to also color in 2 sections of my umbrella. So I'm imagining that the other section of the blue greens that we used is kind of behind his body. So it's kind of signified by his jacket. It's kind of across from each other that way. So now I'm going to color in 2 navy blue sections that are also across from each other, and they're also enough distance away from his jeans that it won't look like, you know, kind of off balance. So I'm just blending the same way, starting with the B39 and then blending out with the B37 and then creating a nice highlight on the edges with the lightest shade, the B34 in this case. And that's just because I'm imagining that there's a little more light shining through the edges than there would be in the center where it's kind of more rounded. And it's also behind his body, so there would be more shadow. In the poem, there's a line about my son tugging on his shiny red boots, so I had to color the boots red. So I'm using my favorite red combo for those. I'm using R29, R39, and R59, and I'm just drawing some little shadows kind of again where the boot is raised up, so there would be a little crease from, you know, where the ankle is, also on the other one because it's the same. And then just blending towards the center with the R39 and then filling them in completely with the R29. I'm going to color in 2 more sections of my umbrella with these reds, again picking sections that are across from each other so that they stay in balance. So I'm drawing in the shadows with the R59 and then blending out with the R39 and filling in with the R29. By the way, this is part of the MFT and Friends blog hop. So there's a great big blog hop going on at the My Favorite Things blog today, full of design team members and collaborators. So there's going to be so much crafty inspiration, all using the brand new April release. So you definitely want to go over there and check that out. And I will have a link to my stop in the hop in the description bar below the video, so you can visit there to check out the entire thing. For my orange combo, I wanted a more muted palette, again kind of tying in with the muted blue-greens that I previously used. So I'm using YR04, YR14, and YR18, and I'm going to color in my last 2 sections of my umbrella, just starting with the YR18 as my darkest, and then blending out with the YR14. And then I will fill in the last little bit there with the YR04, which is the brightest of those 3 shades. So it'll have a little bit of brightness, but be more muted because of the darker shadows. And then I'm also going to use those colors to color in the little duckling's feet and beak. For his shirt and the umbrella handle, I'm using C3, C5, and C7. I'm starting with the C7 as my darkest, just doing a little bit of shadow on the edge of his shirt and also on the umbrella handle. and then I'm blending out with the C5, and then I'll finish with the C3, and I'll also color the metal rod that's kind of connecting from the handle to the umbrella with the C3 as well. For the neckline of his shirt, I went back to my R29 to just add a little pop of color there. And then for my duckling, I'm going to use Y11, Y13, and Y15. I'm starting with the Y15 and adding some shadow to the outer edges of his body and to the inside of his wings. And then I'm blending out with the Y13 and then filling in with the Y11. And then I'm using R20 to give him some rosy cheeks as well. The last thing I need to color is the puddle and the splash marks, and I'm going to use BG45 and BG49 for those. This is going to be kind of a bright teal combination, and I think this is going to contrast really well with the stormy sky background that I'm going to be doing. So I just added the BG49 along the bottom edge of the puddle and then a little bit accenting at the top, and then filled in the corners of the splash marks, and then I can blend out with the BG45 towards the edges, and that finishes up the coloring. So I'll just die cut these with the matching dies. For my background, I'm using Hickory Smoke, Evergreen Bough, and Faded Jeans Distress inks. I'm going to press those down onto a Ziploc bag, and then I'll spritz that with my distress sprayer, and then I can flip that over and place it down on my cardstock. And I am using Tim Holtz's watercolor paper for this. And I'm using the toothy side just because I like the texture. So I'm going to press that down here and there, kind of concentrated in the top left corner going down towards the right, and then I'm going to dry that with my heat tool. Then I'm going to come in with a second layer, just doing the same exact thing, giving that another spritz, and add another layer to intensify that color and just add some different colors in different areas. I wanted to soften up that right edge, so I'm just going to spray my distress sprayer right on the paper and kind of pick that up and move that around so it really gets softened, and then I'll take my heat tool to that again. And I wanted to add some splatters, so I'm going to take those ink cubes and press those down one at a time, add a little bit more water, and then pick that up with my paintbrush and just tap that against my finger so that it adds that nice spattered effect across the card. I'll do that with each of the 3 shades, and then I will set this panel aside to dry. I'm going to take the Cloud Shaker window and frame and die cut a cloud out of the top right corner. I just used the window on today's card. Then I'm going to grab my card base and I'm going to line up the panel with the edges so it's nice and straight, and I'm going to use some post-it tape to hold that together, and then I'm going to pop this into my MISTI so that I can stamp my sentiment. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp the sentiment that says "Sending Showers of Love" from the Rain or Shine stamp set, and I am going to stamp that down twice to get a really good impression. Then I'll open up my card so I can stamp the inside, and I'm going to use 2 more of the ducklings and an additional sentiment, all from the Rain or Shine stamp set, and this one reads, "I'm here for you even on the cloudiest of days." I love the sentiments in these sets. I've lined my Cloud Shaker pouch on both sides with some score tape, but I've only peeled off the release papers from the front so that I can press that to the back of my card base. And I'll run my EK Success powder tool around the inside just to reduce any static cling. And then I can add my shaker material. I'm using some sparkling clear sequins, and I have both the 4 and 6 millimeter sizes. And I'll just add a fair bit in there. I don't want to completely cover up my sentiment, so I don't want to overfill it. I also am going to add just a little bit of some chunky glitter. So I'll just take a couple little pinches of that and put that right inside. I'm going to set that aside for just a minute and grab my card base. I'm going to add a thin bead of glue to the bottom of that, and then I'm going to lay a strip of pattern paper right over top. I chose the medium gray chevron from the pattern paper pack. I added some additional score tape all around the outside edge of my card and a couple of pieces in the middle for good measure, since it did get a little bit warped from the watercoloring and heat drying. Then I peeled off the release papers, lined up my card base with that panel nice and straight, and pressed that down into place. I'm going to use some liquid glue to adhere the puddle down to the bottom of my scene, and I'll grab my little boy and just make sure that that puddle is right where I want it. Since I use liquid glue, I have a little bit of time to shift that into place. And then the rest of the images I'm going to add with some foam tape. I just thought it would look nice with some dimensions, so I'll peel off the backer sheets and then I can line up everything. I'm going to start with the boy, and I'm just using the curve of his umbrella to kind of go around the edge of that cloud. And then I'll give him a little splash mark on either side of his boots, and then add the little duckling over to the right of him. And now for the fun part, I can give that a shake, and you can see all that shaker material in action. And I'll give you another peek at the inside, and that is going to complete our card for today. I decided not to add any additional embellishments. I thought with the shaker feature and the coloring and that great Stormy background that there was enough going on, and I didn't want to overdo it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This was a special one for me, and I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to check out the MFT and Friends blog hop through the link in the description bar below. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.